Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's your DC Spotlight for the week of May 14th, 2025. 11 books to talk about today in detail. I think there's a 12th title. DC crossover with Sonic is also out this week, and then, the usual facsimile reprints. Um, I gotta say, this was a down week for me. It was a little disappointing. Even the books that I really was looking forward to reading were just okay, and we'll get into that when we cover them. But yeah, I don't know. It just didn't really get me. The books this week just didn't really get me excited. What do you think about the week overall, Rocky?
It was okay. It was about half and half. It was half and half. It was, yeah. There was a couple. There was like three that I quite enjoyed, and the rest were a little bit sort of meh. But we'll get into it. The devil's always in the details. So I'm actually curious your thoughts about a couple of them myself, in particular, Absolute Flash. But we'll get into it.
All right. Well, let's dive in. Detective Comics number 1097 is the first book we're going to talk about. Elixir Part 1. Tom Taylor's the writer. Lee Garbett on art, which is really cool to see. I'm a big fan of Lee. Speaking of Lee, we have Lee Lowridge on colors, Wes Abbott on letters. Michael Yanine does the cover. So this is interesting. We sort of got a, I don't want to say an ending, but the first arc wrapped up well. It was satisfying, but there's still a lot of questions left unanswered, and that's where Tom Taylor's going in his second arc, which isn't really surprising. I mean, it's kind of like his Nightwing run in that it's just one long run where he's telling more of a long form story. So I really enjoyed the interactions between Harvey Bullock and Batman. That was great. I love that we're now going to be Batman's going to be exploring who Elixir is. The person that was pulling the strings behind um, Asima and um, Warden Slarity that was running that juvenile detention facility where they were harvesting blood and what have you. So um, it's again, it's I like where it's going. I like the art from um,
Lee Gorbett.
from Lee Garbett, and
Lee Garbett.
I'm enjoying this character of Ambrose, who it's nice once in a while to have a villain that just a villain that's not necessarily. I mean, we don't know if he has powers or not. Perhaps he does, perhaps not. But clearly a villain. But he doesn't put on a costume or whatever. He's wearing a trench coat. He's got a suit and tie. He's wearing sunglasses. But clearly a villain. I mean, he wastes no time in executing the warden of that facility that we're talking about, um, uh, where the blood of the juveniles was being harvested. Faultless, I think it was called, Faultless Detention Facility.
Yeah.
So clearly, this is not a good guy, and it goes all the way back to apparently Harvey Bullock's first days in Gotham City, first days on the force. So clearly, there's a mystery here. Once again, Tom Taylor's delving back into the history of Gotham, whether it be all the way back to pre origin of Batman in a way, with Thomas Wayne still being alive and what have you, and us finding out that he actually saved the life of Joe Chill at one point. But again, as I mentioned before, when he goes back and he's inserting this new information, he never disturbs anything that's come before. He's not contradicting things that other writers have done. So I really appreciate that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Um, And again, I thought Lee Garbett did a fantastic job on the art.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually the biggest fan of Mikel Yanine's main cover, as much as I'm a huge fan of Mikel most of the time. But I don't know. I didn't really think that the background on that main cover really suited Miguel's style of art. So I don't know. I thought it was only okay. Uh, Now the B cover by Chris Stevens I thought was really really cool, with Batman kind of leaping off of a gargoyle, kind of leaping at us. That was actually my favorite cover. Um, but anyway, um,
Yeah.
what do you think of
Well,
of this
first, I'm
issue?
curious. Did it make your top five? This one? this week,
Oh,
or did you
let
not
me get my.
rank him yet?
I no, I did. I did. I just got to get it up in front of me. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I made my top three.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
yeah,
I
so
actually made
yeah,
it.
so I did enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, it made my top five, and in fact, it made my top three too this week. I quite like it. I really find myself enjoying the art by Lee Garbett, and Tom Taylor. I like that he's building up this. I like that he's building Elixir. Elixir actually sounds like an interesting new sort of group. Now we've got the Court of Owls, and we've always had these mysterious groups in Gotham and in Batman's stories, and quite frankly, they make compelling stories when they're done right. If Scott Snyder can make the Court of Owls interesting, let's see if Tom Taylor can make this mysterious Elixir interesting. This Ambrose character, I agree, he's very mysterious. We don't know if he's got any metahuman powers yet, but he seems to be very much a badass, and he almost seems to be almost like he doesn't age, because 10 years before, with the young rookie Harvey Bullock, that's where Harvey Bullock first met him as a cop who had a sort of a corrupt partner, and basically Harvey Bullock witnessed an earlier execution by Elixir, but sort of kept it under wraps because he was a young rookie and he had to like sort of toe the line, and so there's Elixir clearly has a background in Gotham City. We're not really sure what it is, but very clearly there's some connections there. Also, Elixir does have a connection to, of course, the 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 whole idea of creating medicines that can prolong life that even Batman, Bruce Wayne benefited from. So maybe Ambrose has some enhanced powers too, or some enhanced abilities, or he's maybe older than he looks. We shall see. But I like this. This is sort of building a mystery, and it's additive to the first great story that Tom Taylor did, and it's really good. And I thought it was one of the more compelling reads this week. And I got to give Tom Taylor credit here. I feel like he's coming back. He's finding his A game again because in the last iteration, his last stint at DC, with his Nightwing and Titans run, I just think this Detective Comics is just all around just a substantially better, more substance filled storytelling, and it's like he's found his mojo again for me, and I'm glad. I'm quite enjoying the opening of this second arc.
Yeah, it's almost like the. I mean, we talk about the emotion that was in the first arc for Bruce. Having learning things about his father. His father saved Joe Chill and what have you. So it was almost like the emotional beats that were in the first story arc were tied to the action, as opposed to in Nightwing, it was more the emotional beats were tied to the character rather than the action, if that makes sense. And I think when Tom Taylor ties his emotional beats into the action of the story rather than the specific characters, it works better. Like think about the emotional beats in Deceased, right? Like they're tied to when somebody dies, like a hero you're not expecting to die dies. Same thing with Injustice. So it's kind of like that's when he works best, I think. So anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Batman and Robin Year One, issue number 7. Co-plot by Mark Waid and Chris Somney. Written by Waid, art by Somney, colors by Mateus Lopez. Letters by Clayton Cowles with Chris Somney. This does not make my top 5. It comes in at number 8 for me. I mean, it's Somney art, and that's fun. And the standout highlight of the issue for me is Dick Grayson's behavior and trying to when he tries to throw the social worker off work because she shows up at his school unexpected and he's got some bruises and he
Yeah,
says it's from getting in fights at school and they're like, oh, we don't have fights here, and then he provokes a bully to punch him right in front of the social worker. Uh,
yeah.
there's not anything bad with about this. It's just, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Somni's art style. I know a lot of people are. Um, it's okay. It's okay, and this wasn't the best issue of the series so far. But this is starting to feel like it's something that's going to read better as a collected edition. So
Yeah.
anyway, where does it rank for you, Rocky?
Well, it ranks. I put it in at number. I think it was number 7 for me. I This actually could have been higher. It actually. Ah, the devil's always in the details here on this. I really like the character work. I love the fact that this is Batman and Robin year one. I think this General Grimaldi is a very interesting character. I love the character. I even like this other character that seems to be able to change his appearance. The use of
Yeah, it's
Two
Clayface.
Face. That's Clay. Well, there's
Yeah,
Clayface, but there's
yeah,
there's another character that seems to the mask itself helps you change the shape. I don't know. It seems to has some sort of a weird
yeah.
effect.
It's a version. I think it's a version of. I mean, there's so many different Clayfaces, but I think it's the first version.
Yeah. But in any event, I thought it was very well done, and and especially since it looks like Grimaldi might be looking to actually assassinate Bruce Wayne, like fathers and their sons, and so this is really building to something, and it's definitely going to read really good as a trade. But this is a Batman and Robin series that's being sort of, I think, missed because Detective Comics and we've had a lot of with Absolute Batman, we've got a lot of great Batman titles. This is a good one too, but I think this one just hasn't been getting enough attention, and it probably deserves more attention. But it just gets lost in the weeds of just all the quality and everything else. I love Chris Samney. I think this is he's doing a really good job here. So the fact that I ranked it 7 shouldn't dismay people from picking it up because I think it's a pretty good series.
All right, up next we have Batman, Superman, World's Finest, issue 39. I cannot believe we're up to 39 issues of this series. It feels like it just started, but anyway, it's the Justice League Unlimited World's Finest crossover. We Are Yesterday Part 4, written by Mark Waid, art by Clayton Henry, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, letters by Steve Wands. This comes in at number 5 for me. I am such a huge fan of Clayton Henry's art. I think he does such a fantastic job. He's a perfect artist for this type of crossover. It just feels so classically super heroic with all the time jumps and these different versions of Superman and Batman and Dick Grayson Robin, jumping around through time and what have you. It feels like there's stakes. It's great to see the old school Justice League satellite. It's fun to see these old versions of the Legion of Doom that are right out of the Challenge of the Super Friends cartoon. So it's just a ton of fun. It's just a ton of fun, and it really feels like there's consequences, there's stakes. Everything that's happening is making sense, especially these powered up supervillains that are basically have foreknowledge of the characters and their weaknesses and what have you, because Grodd has the added intellect and telepathic and telekinetic abilities of Martian Manhunter. So again, he feels like a real threat, and he's sort of elevating the other members of the Legion of Doom. Plus, I really loved the scene where Superman is able to overcome the Scarecrow fear gas. Like normally, Scarecrow fear gas is not going to affect Superman at all, but it's Scarecrow fear gas that's infused with kryptonite, and so that's why it actually affects Superman, and he's seeing things that are terrifying or whatever. And Scarecrow pushes too far, again using that foreknowledge that I was talking about, which normally is an advantage, but he tries to scare Superman by showing him his own future, namely his coffin after he's killed by Doomsday, and that actually snaps Superman out of it, because this is a younger Superman, pre Doomsday, who hasn't died, who thinks he can't die, and so when he sees that snaps him out of it, because he's like, that can't be real. I'm not going to die, which is really funny when you think about it, in a very ironic way. So anyway, I'm really enjoying this. One of the things that I will say, however, is having this We Are Yesterday be a crossover. It's in 2 issues of World's Finest and 2 issues of Justice League Unlimited, which isn't in itself bad. But then you also have a World's Finest annual, and the reason I bring it up is because I can't imagine this thing's going to read really smoothly in a trade, because they've had different artists, right? Like, so your Justice League Unlimited, those are both going to be Dan Mora, and I don't think the first issue of World's Finest was Clayton Henry. I could be wrong, but even if so, I know Clayton Henry didn't do the annual either, because the annual had several artists in it. So it's going to be a situation where you read it in a trade, it's going to be jumping from art style to art style to art style, and I don't think it's going to flow. And unfortunately, I think that's going to hurt the story a little bit because there's a lot to like here. It feels very world's finest. It feels very classically super heroic. So I am enjoying it. We'll see how it all comes to a conclusion. We have, I guess, 2 parts to go. Um, the next part being in Justice League Unlimited number 7, because as I said, there are 6 parts. So, what do you think of it, Rocky?
This came in at number 8 for me. To be
Wow.
honest. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I at the same time, maybe it's because the first time I read it, it had some okay moments, I guess. It felt a little bit more like almost like Super Friends to me at first, and I even upon first read, I found myself I had to read it a second time. Upon first reading, I got a little bit. I was a little bit confused, to be honest with you, and I had to go back and reread it, and I had a better appreciation at the second time around. And that's on me because Batman is distinguished with the different symbol on his chest, and I mean, so there's no reason why I should have been. I guess it was just maybe when I read it, uh, but it's fine. I agree with you about the wonkiness on the crossovers and what have you, but. It's fun. It's a fun read, and hey, I'm curious to see how this is going to end, how they're going to resolve things, and yeah, but it's I won't say much more than that since it wasn't in my top 5.
Yeah, and the main cover is pretty solid from Dan Mora, but it got me more excited for the issue than what actually. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's in my top 5. I did enjoy it, but seeing Ultraman and um, members of the Amazo squad and
Yeah,
who's that? Batman
I,
Who Laughs and looks like
Amazo wasn't even in it. That's why I was
yeah,
disappointed.
yeah. I don't know if that's supposed to be Necron or Pariah. Um,
Or
and then I can't even
Ultraman.
remember her. I can't remember the name of who's the female entity that's
Oh,
the
uh,
mother of
Perpetua.
Perpetua. Perpetua,
Perpetua.
yeah,
Yeah,
Perpetua's on there as well. So yeah, I
Owlman
was
and
like, oh, are we gonna get to
Right.
see a lot of these big bads? But yeah, they didn't. They didn't show up. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Absolute Flash number 3. This is from writer Jeff Lemire. Nick Robles handles the art. Adriana Lucas on colors. Tom Napolitano on letters. This one makes my top 3 as well. And
Cool.
I, you mentioned wanting to, being curious about what I thought of it. So I'm gonna let you go. You go first. What do you think?
It never made my top 5. Eh,
Wow.
I thought this was, I thought this was really, really disappointing and boring. This Grodd thing was, I mean, I hope Wally West ends up with a talking monkey on his shoulder, and he bonds with a monkey, and he's been experimented upon, and they bond with each other. I just didn't. It just never really resonated with me. I'm more interested in the fact that the rogues are actually the people. The guy who's in charge of the rogues is actually Wally West's father. That was pretty good, and so ironically enough, it's his own father that's looking for him. That's interesting. Um, but a lot of this was just him sort of running away, and then I thought this big deal about sending Grodd after him. You know, Grodd. It looked like Super Friend, too super. Like it was like that geek. What was that? Geeko, the Super Friends
Gleek.
monkey. Gleek or
Gleek.
something. Yeah,
Yeah. Gleek.
I thought it
Yeah.
looked kind of corny, to be honest with you. Although it's kind of cool where the monkey has on the back of his head this Grodd character. The back of his head opens up and it looks like his brain is exposed almost. So it's kind of a interesting that maybe his brain is exposed on the back of his head. Uh, I'm not, but I don't know. It just seemed a little bit silly to me. I never really, And then they're touching each other, and then they can kind of bond, and I'm not sure why they can bond. And anyways, I really don't hope that Grodd. I don't want Grodd and Wally West to have like he's going to be a Flash that has a monkey on his shoulder. I really hope that's not it. Um, but uh, there's lots of aspects of this story that I'm sure I'm going to find interesting. In particular, the rogues and the relationship with Wally West's father. Is Wally West's father going to be a villain? Is he the bad guy here? That's interesting. There's interesting flashbacks that hint at a lot of interesting character development about Wally West in the past. The flashbacks, and I just, but the monkey aspects of it, I thought were just, it's just sort of, that sort of took it away from me. But maybe Grodd will. I mean, what powers does Grodd have other than to mind meld with Wally? I'm not sure what was Grodd exactly supposed to do. He sort of took out the rogues, and the rogues knew that he betrayed the rogues, and at one point Captain Boomerang says that the monkey went rogue, or Grodd went rogue, and I don't know, he's got some sort of mind melding powers or something. uh I'm not entirely sure, but it, it was a little bit unclear, and I just wish it was a little bit more. The monkey's gone rogue. Well, how do they know that? I guess he makes them all go dizzy. I'm not even sure what's really happening or what's going on. Um, but hey, I mean, that's just like I said. I'm making it sound like I didn't like it. Yeah, it was okay, but like I said, it was another week where it was okay. But this one didn't really. This one actually put it. This is near the bottom of the pile for me for absolute titles at this point. If this is how this continues, to be honest with you, it really has to get better for me. This really went down for me, downhill, and I hope it picks up in subsequent issues. But what are your thoughts?
Well, they know the monkey's gone rogue because the monkey attacks them. They're
Well, he didn't attack them. He had some sort of mind thing. He didn't actually physically attack them.
no, because he's a tiny little monkey. He's
Well,
got Grodd's powers. He's Grodd. He has telekinesis. He has telepathy, and they're advancing toward Wally and Grodd, and Grodd uses his powers and knocks Golden Glider out of the sky and forces the tank to stop. And Captain Cold knows that it's the monkey's mental abilities, that he was supposed to go and capture Wally, and instead Captain Cold sees Grodd standing right next to Wally using his mental
yeah,
abilities against the rogues. So yeah, he's gone, and they don't call themselves rogues. That's what we're calling them, but
yeah,
clearly the monkey's changed sides, so that's why he's saying he's gone rogue. Um, and then you have the trickster. What? That can't happen. He's not supposed to. And then he makes the trickster, pass out as well. So it's pretty interesting. And then for some reason, he can't. His powers don't work on Captain Boomerang. Not sure why that would be. Um, so I don't know what it is about Captain Boomerang. His boomerang is tech clearly, so not sure why that is. But anyway, I really enjoyed this. I mean, the idea of Grodd and the way that the reveal as it played out last issue, where uh, we were told, release Grodd, and we just had the eyes, and we thought of, you think of Grodd and you think of this giant, massive, like silverback gorilla, and instead, it's this little tiny monkey. And I'm not the biggest, I hear this cliche all the time, right? Like, I want to sell a comic, just put a monkey on the cover, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of monkeys either. Um, and I don't know if long term I want Absolute Flash to have a monkey sidekick that sits on his shoulder, like you said. But like that last splash page from Nick Robles, where Wally West has taken the costume, sort of like containment type suit off of Barry Allen, and he's wearing it, and he's running towards us, and it seems like it would be a very iconic classic image. But then you throw a green monkey, like completely out of the color palette of everything else. I think it just makes him stand out, and it's just kind of funny. It's so incongruous to what else is going on. Um, but the reason I enjoy this so much is because despite the fact that we haven't gotten that many answers exactly in terms of, okay, what is it that has given Wally his powers? Because I think it's been mentioned there's no Speed Force. So how exactly does he have his powers? Like, not much has been explained. There's a lot of mystery to that. But despite that, um, I love that Wally, and maybe it's through you mentioned it, his bonding with Grodd, the moments of connection is the way that Jeff Lemire describes in the book. It sort of has allowed Wally to sort of settle in a way. He's been so manic, and dealing with kind of anxiety, and he hasn't been able to kind of pull himself together, and he's been sort of just reacting to his environment. But then at the end here, once he, along with Grodd, they're able to defeat the Rogues, um, and once they're kind of subdued, Wally's like, okay, or actually Grodd says, hey, Wally, go, and Wally's like, no, let's go together. But he asserts himself. He has some agency. That's when he goes to um, the remains of Barry Allen, and he gets the costume, and he starts to accept. He even says, as in the words of Jeff Lemire, this is my life now. I can't outrun it. I need to be here. So I need to calm down. Um, and once he accepts that, the fact that now he feels something he hasn't felt in a long time, which is free. It's like he's taking control over his life, right? Like for so long, probably ever since his mother died, he's felt out of control. He's felt the anxiety of things just happening. Like his father keeps moving him around the world and what have you. And he hasn't been able to have any agency. He hasn't made any decisions for himself and been able to really have control over his life. And so I just found it interesting. I like that juxtaposition of the mystery of what his powers are, how he got them. He doesn't know the answers to those questions, and neither do we at this point. And yet he feels better than he has in a long time because he has a connection with Grodd, and he's making a decision of where his life's going to go from here, even if he's not, exactly sure. Um, he has some agency. He's taking charge. He's accepting where he's at. So I really enjoyed that. I thought the art was really great by Nick Robles as well.
It was good.
And the main cover is probably the best of these. There is a Travis Moore 1 in 25 that's pretty cool as well. But with the monkey, doesn't that main cover, doesn't it remind you of issue number 1 of Y the Last Man?
Yeah, it does.
Isn't that a bit of an
Yeah,
homage
with
to
yeah, with
Y
the
the Last
monkey
Man?
ampersand from Why the
Yeah,
Last Man. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm
So
glad you brought that up because I was thinking that it looked familiar, but yeah, that's a good call.
yeah, I was pretty
Yeah,
sure that's what it was. Although
yeah.
usually when you homage that closely, they'll say, they'll give credit to the other person, but I didn't see that in the press copy. But anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Catwoman number 76. Torrin Grumbuck handles the script. Patricio Del Pesce art and colors. Steve Wan's on letters. I know Patricio Del Pesce as a color artist. I don't know that I've seen them do line work before, but I thought the art here was pretty solid. All that being said, this comes in at number 9 for me, so it's not anywhere near my top 5. But I'm just going to say the same thing that I always say about this book. I am intrigued by this book. It feels like a big, sprawling crime drama, um, but with so many characters and so many moving parts and set in different time periods, it's going to have to be read as a collected edition to really get the best of it. Because I think there is something here, and I am enjoying it. And every time I read one of these issues, I'm like, yeah, I need to reread the whole thing. But at this point, I'm kind of um, resigned to the fact I'm just going to wait till this whole entire arc is over. Not just this arc, but the whole story. An arc and 2 issues so far. Maybe it'll be two arcs, 12 issues. Once they're all done, I'm going to go back and read it all and see how much I enjoy it. So, where does it come in for you?
I came in at actually number. Okay, it came in at number 11 for me, but I will say that story wise, this is a much better story than it would have first appeared at first glance. This is very much an espionage or espionage ish. Ocean's 11 type of story. It has to do with Selena's past, and it's come back to haunt her because they found out that a character that she used to be, she had a different identity in the past named Evie, and that they a heist gone wrong. She betrayed the team. She disappeared. They find out where she is, and certain factions want revenge, and that's ultimately it. But this is a really long story. I think this could have been a much shorter story, to be honest. I think I think that's a legitimate criticism. I think it's just too long. But you're right. It's going to read better as a story and better as a trade. And I just, it's got to end at some point because this is like 6 or 7 issues in already. I don't know. It feels like it's
This is eight
dragging at this point.
eight issues in.
8 issues in, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's way too long. And another criticism, Catwoman just doesn't appear in this story. I mean, she just really, really doesn't. She appears almost by accident. You know, usually in a story you have flashbacks. Here you have flash forwards, if for no other reason to remind readers. Oh, by the way, this is a Catwoman comic. This is Selina in a Catwoman suit. This is actually because otherwise you wouldn't know. That's a serious weakness of this. More of this
I mean,
story needed to take.
Selena's shows up plenty, but you're saying not in costume. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not in costume, and not in costume, and and it's not plenty. I mean, most of it, a good portion of it, between this issue and the two issues before, it's like there's a lot of Evie, and she's and
Well,
it's like
but Evie
as
is
a blonde.
Catwoman.
No, I know,
Evie
but
is.
I know, but she's a blonde. I'm just saying, if you're visually though, like artistically, Catwoman, you're looking for somebody in a Catwoman suit, you know, and there's very few visual markers. So I mean, this is legitimately this should be like reading a Superman story, and Superman's in it because Clark Kent's everywhere. Well, you know, that's just
Well,
my
no, it
crazy.
wouldn't be. It wouldn't be Clark Kent. He'd be like Tom Johnson because he would be a secret identity or
Yeah,
undercover. It's Clark Kent undercover as Tom Johnson, starring in the Superman book.
yeah. I mean,
I
at
take
least
your
with
point, right? Like if you pick up
yeah.
a book that says Superman, you expect to see Superman. If you pick up a book that says Catwoman, you expect to see Selena in some sort of costume, even if it's just like an all black leotard
Yeah.
because she's
I,
stealing something.
I want to give a shout out to the cover A's are really cool. They're very I think they're very sort of like old school, and they reinforce that sort of like older school espionage sort of feel, and I really like that. But I wish the covers were more reflective of the content, to be honest. But I don't know, neither here nor there. But like I said, decent story, but I just think it's a little bit off the mark.
Yeah, there's a Inhook Lee cover that's kind of she looks like a little girl. It's kind of it's disconcerting. I'll put it that way. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Superman Unlimited #1 in the blink of an eye, written by Dan Slott, art by Rafael Albuquerque, colors by Marcelo Mayalo, letters by Dave Sharp. This definitely comes into my top three. New status quo for Superman in a lot of ways. Um, but I'm really curious to see how you received it. So I'm going to make you go first. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it is in my top three. It is in my top three. I really enjoyed this. I think this is. I'm happy to report that this dawn of an Emerald era, which is right on the cover. It very much is that. Dan Slott has. He's. I applaud his creativity here. It's not that it's these ideas are necessarily stunningly new, but he uses them in refreshing ways, and in particular, what he does with Kryptonite. I think I'm really fascinated by that. But it I like how it starts off introducing new characters. Morgan Edge's former wife, Imani Edge, is making the Daily Planet go basically global to fight misinformation and to expanding and probably expanding into its social media presence, and it's really growing as a media organization. And not surprisingly, of course, they're fighting for truth and justice as Clark Kent uh, you know, uh, reminds Imani Edge, and then of course he has to run off uh, and he's got to run off to help people, and that's what he does. And Dan Slott, it's almost like Dan Slott is trying to portray and script his favorite Superman images. So he has Superman rescue a kid in a zoo from being attacked from a lion. Yeah, to go to sea, rescue a boat sinking in the ocean, put out a fire in Metropolis, and he even has enough time to stop by a girl who routinely sings and plays guitar in the park to tell the girl, by the way, I always fly by you every day, and I love your music, and I particularly love that song you play, and just Superman's being Superman. This is a really great comic to remind people how much Superman does. Not only does he's very busy at Clark Kent being a reporter, but he's extremely busy, arguably even busier as Superman, but he takes time to not only smell the roses, but to compliment a young woman playing guitar, because he takes time to listen to the music as well and to enjoy that. Um, and it uh, things come to a huge crisis when a kryptonite meteor is headed toward Earth. And well, he doesn't realize it's actually kryptonite until he gets to the meteor. Superman realizes that he's probably had it. He's probably going to die. And in Dan Slott, very cleverly, this is a little bit maybe tropey, but it's such a clever way to give us backstory and to sort of remind the reader and to actually remind the reader exactly what the status quo is for Superman, or to remind the reader what the history is of Superman now, which is really good because now that we got Mark Waid and a new era for DC Comics, as Superman is trying to prevent this kryptonite from doing too much damage to the Earth, he's reflecting back on his life, and it's in those reflections back on his life that we see what version of Superman, what specific histories of Superman are going to play a part in the DC universe. In particular, we know, of course, that his parents are Jor-El and Laura. We know that the planet Krypton exploded. We know when he comes to Earth. We know he has a career as Superboy. We know he meets the Legion of Superheroes. So we already know the Bendis era is out. It's not his son that inspires the Legion. It's him. And we he has a relationship with Lana. We see his youth, and we see snapshots of it, and we even see remnants and suggestions of Donner's 1978 Superman, where and the Fortress of Solitude. So we even see the death of Superman and with Doomsday, and so we see elements and aspects of the greatest iterations of Superman in the Superman mythology are sort of encapsulated in this issue very, very well, in a way that sort of the best moments of Superman, both in TV and movies and in the Silver Age and modern age, are sort of encapsulated here. And that's why it resonated so well with me and why I loved it so much. And I have such an appreciation for it. And it just really, really worked. And the revelation about when the kryptonite hits Earth, what happens with that kryptonite? It becomes the most rarest mineral on the planet. Superman is not killed, and what happens with the kryptonite now? The prevalence of kryptonite on the Earth, how that will change the status quo, is really something. I'll let you talk about that because I want to you can share some of the joy. But I thought this was excellent. I'm so looking forward to this new status quo with what's going to be happening with kryptonite, how it affects the Superman family, and just is so well done. And Dan Slott really. I loved his Superior Spider-Man run, and I never really followed him much after that. But as an opening issue for Dan Slott here, I was really impressed. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with my nitpicks first, and they're minor nitpicks, but I want to point them out. So first of all, you mentioned it, how Superman is doing his Superman thing, and Dan Slott does a fantastic job, sort of day in the life or what have you, showing him going around doing things that only Superman can do, and also doing things that only Superman does, even though a lot of us can do them. Like you mentioned, him stopping in to tip the young woman who's busking, and tell her, hey, I listen, I listen to all the songs, and yours is great, and what have you, and we could use a little bit more of that. And then, yeah, when he goes and he tries to stop the meteor that's covered with a neutron, and he's like, why is that even in this century? It's not coming out for a while. And so clearly somebody has planned this, and they're sending this giant, asteroid of kryptonite toward Earth. And it is a little cliche. It is a little tropey to have Superman's life flash before his eyes. But again, I mean, this is a number one. This is a Superman Unlimited number one. Dan Slott has talked about how he wants it to be new reader friendly. And you don't need to know anything about Superman in terms of his actual history in DC Comics, what counts, what doesn't. If you just go and see the Superman movie next month, and you want to read or in 2 months, in July, I guess, and you want to pick up a Superman number one and jump on, you can do that here. That leaves out. So these pages are really for new readers. That kind of leaves out the longtime Superman fans. There's not anything new for us here. and so, I could see some people complaining that, what is it? What's in it for us, if you will? Because the whole middle chunk of the book is all regurgitating Superman's history. So I get that, so that might bother some people. It didn't bother me necessarily, because I thought Raphael Albuquerque did a good job in depicting, the history of Superman over the various eras, as well as getting to see some iconic Superman villains and what have you. So, I didn't mind that. But again, I could see some people that it would be like, man, I'm spending all this money on this book and I didn't get anything new. Um, Again, Superman is unable to stop the kryptonite asteroid from hitting, and he thinks he's dead, and then he wakes up. He's in, it looks like the Justice League satellite, the Watchtower. He wakes up 3 months later. 3 months have gone by, and somehow, he's finally awakened, and they're not exactly sure how he survived. We're not exactly sure how he survived, but he did, and he managed to he managed to redirect the kryptonite asteroid so that it landed in the ocean, and no people were killed or whatever. But now there's an island, I guess, close by to where it crashed, that has now basically become one of the most powerful nations on Earth, because it has, it got access to this super rare mineral, or super rare substance, which is not rare at all anymore. Like anybody, any criminal wherever can get their hands on kryptonite now, because all of a sudden it's gone from being a very rare element to being plentiful. And this nation has sort of, almost literally overnight, become, one of the most powerful nations on Earth. El Caldero, it's called. And so in only 3 months, it's become one of the Earth's wealthiest countries, because it's become, it has the supply of kryptonite, and we see this, like the cityscape that's very futuristic and what have you. Um, and yeah, it has the valuable kryptonite. And then we see, Connor Kent, and we see Supergirl, and they're like bandaged and bruised, and talking about how, everybody from Elite Assassins to Cobra to Inner Gang, everybody has, access to kryptonite, and it's made their job a lot harder. Um, but maybe now with Superman, being awake, it will make it, a little easier for everybody, because somehow he survived this kryptonite falling on him, and they turn the lights off, and he's like glowing gold. Like, has he become gold kryptonite embodied? Like, what the heck's going on? Like, we have no idea. It's a great cliffhanger. And we'll see what happens. It says everything changes next. So is Superman no longer going to be, vulnerable to kryptonite? Like, that would seem to be an interesting story choice. Like, right, introduce kryptonite to be plentiful and to make things more challenging for Superman, but then make him not vulnerable to it. Like, I don't know. It's so interesting. Like, when you think about kryptonite as a plot point, right? Like, at one point, certainly during the Silver Age, it was everywhere. It seemed like every villain would manage to get their hands on it. And there was every color. There's purple, there's blue, there's gold, there's, crystalline, there's rainbow, and it's every one of them does something different, and, it became hard to keep track. And then at some point in the late 70s, early 80s, DC is like, enough is enough. And you had that famous cover with, by Neil Adams, with Superman breaking the kryptonite chains, like, kryptonite no more. And they're like, yeah, they hit the reset button on kryptonite, because it just had gotten out of hand, and, become too much of like a plot crutch for writers. So everything is cyclical. So maybe we're coming back to having kryptonite be everywhere. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But the nitpick I have, though, is I get that this is the most valuable, metal on Earth, most valuable element or whatever. And this nation state of El Caldero was, closest to the landing spot. They had access to it. Nobody else did. I don't care. That doesn't matter. You still can't build from nothing to become one of the most powerful nations on Earth in 3 months. It just can't happen. It's
Yeah.
like, I get that this is a superhero book, and people fly and have superpowers or whatever. Um, but that pulled me out of the story a little bit. I mean, it still takes time to build buildings, right? It still takes time to there's flying cars and everything. Like, that was a little bit too far for me. Um, but I get it. That's probably about the max length of time you could say that Superman could be. It's already kind of pushing verisimilitude or credulity, if you will, to say he was in a coma for 3 months. Like, really, it would take probably a couple years for that city state of or nation state of El Caldero to really. I mean, I get that they'd be powerful and they'd have a lot of influence, but to build the infrastructure just takes time. So
Yeah.
I was like, did it? Did they build everything out of kryptonite because everything looked green? That was kind of weird as well. I was a little bit reminded of the Superman Returns movie with Brandon Routh, which, to be fair, is not a very good movie. As much as I love Superman, I like Brandon Routh. I think he did a good job, but just the plot
Yeah.
was not very good. The only reason I bring it up is that's kind of what Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor tried to do, right? Like, he's like, what's the one thing they're not making anymore of land, and he tries to create a new continent out of kryptonite.
Yeah.
And
Real estate.
maybe that could have been done like in some way. Like, they could have, like, El Caldero, whatever, the kryptonite could have landed there, and it could have, formed um, buildings or whatever, kind of like Fortress
Yeah.
of Solitude, like kind of thing. But that's not what they did. So
Yes.
I don't know. Remains to be seen. So I really enjoyed this, mostly because I think that it really embodied the spirit of Superman, and reminds longtime readers, who he is. It's also very new reader friendly, so that's good as well for new readers to jump on. And my favorite thing about it, actually, is the whole idea of the Daily Planet going global and making it their mission to fight misinformation. How great would it be if that happened in the real world? If you had some news organization out there that said, you know what we're going to do, we are going to vet everything, um, and we're going to fight misinformation. That would be extremely valuable. Now, it'd be almost impossible to do, which is why it's not happening. Um, I mean, the amount of resources and money and what have you to do what Amani Edge is saying she's going to do. Like, there's going to be a Daily Planet branch in Themyscira, in Atlantis, in every city in the world. That, like, yeah, that's prohibitively expensive, and it just wouldn't work. But the idea of it, for the real world, but the idea of it in the DC universe is going to be great. So I'm very, very excited for the future of Superman and the Superman Unlimited title. All right. Up next, we have Wonder Woman number 21. This comes in at number 7 for me. Written by Tom King, art by Guillaume March, letters by Clayton Cowles. I just thought it was okay. It didn't feel like anything special, kind of a paint by number story. I didn't really care for the art by Guillaume March, so it didn't rate very high for me. Um, my favorite thing about it is the Daniel Sampere main cover, though. That cover is awesome with the Batman and Wonder Woman and the lightning and what have you. But you enjoyed the first issue of this much more than I did, Rocky. So how did the second one land for you?
Oh yeah, I gave it. I think it was my pick of the week. The first this issue. This made my top five. This made my top five. Uh, and I just love the ending. I thought that Tom King. I thought he nailed this. I thought it's a nice 2 issue story. We're looking for somebody has killed Ares, and the big mystery. Wonder Woman had Batman come to help her solve the mystery, and unfortunately, Batman ends up getting hit with lightning, and obviously somebody who was the one that incapacitated Batman, preventing him from helping Wonder Woman solve the murder of who murdered Ares. Well, Hippolyta is the one who is set up as the murderer. Zeus has this. Zeus doesn't like Wonder Woman. He doesn't like Hippolyta. Zeus resents the fact that Hippolyta was made a god, a goddess in the first place, and he basically wants to get rid of her. And ultimately, it's revealed in this issue, uh, in a very sort of very clever way, with Wonder Woman solving the mystery, and that's what I like. Kudos to Tom King. This he I thought. I feared that he was going to have Batman show up to save the day, and he actually even teased Batman showing up to save the day, but it wasn't. This is 100% Wonder Woman utilizing her own intellect, her own skills, and her own knowledge of the gods and hidden resentments of the gods and her opinion of the. She's very opinionated about the gods, and I like that. I've been so frustrated with how many writers will portray the gods as never being held accountable. Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman's frustration with them is my frustration in this particular issue, and that's why I like this so much. And there was great moments between Diana and Bruce, and ultimately it's revealed that uh, even the motivation was so great. Hephaestus, Hephaestus, the husband of Aphrodite, was got very upset with Aphrodite. Aphrodite, he doesn't mind when Aphrodite sleeps around, but Ares, apparently it's revealed, he actually, Wonder Woman was successful in their last altercation to have him feel compassion. Wonder Woman was successful to make Ares, the god of war, feel compassion. That pissed off Hephaestus. That also pissed off Zeus, and because it just did. You know how he hates the Amazons, and he basically and he killed Ares because in his mind Ares, that's showing weakness, and that's basically what he did. And when Wonder Woman tries to basically hold Zeus accountable, and does so in a wonderful way, in a glorious fashion, and what works so well is with Zeus having that attitude, uh, and with Zeus having that attitude toward Wonder Woman, uh, the way she just he's chauvinistic, and he's arrogant, and he hates the Amazons. And I love how Wonder Woman turns the tide, because Wonder Woman can basically blackmail him now, saying, look, if I go, Batman shows up and reminds Wonder Woman that they know Dead Man can tell on him, can go to Hades and tell Ares that his father was the one that killed him, and that would be a war of the gods, and they'd rather have a war with the Amazons than a war with the gods. And so it was a stalemate, a brilliantly done stalemate, and in 2 issues. I just thought this was very well done by Tom King. I love the art by Julian March. He's one of my favorite artists, and I thought it really worked well. Julian March, there's some of the way, just the way he draws Zeus, and he's drawn the gods in these last 2 issues, from Aphrodite to Hephaestus to Zeus. It just they look godlike, and they look a little, they look majestic, in my view, and through his pencils. And I thought it worked really well, and some really great moments. And yeah, it made my top 5.
Yeah, I mostly I think this falls out on my top five because I just didn't care for the art, and the story was just okay. They did have moments. You mentioned Hephaestus, like fine uh, if she sleeps around, but God forbid that she actually have an emotional connection to somebody, and that's that's what makes him mad. The fact
Yeah,
that um, she's comforting Ares, right? When Ares is there, crying on his shoulder over the things that he's done in the past. Um, that's what bothers Hephaestus. So I thought that was kind of cool because there's definitely a ring of truth to that, right? There's many people that feel like that. Like if you go out and you just have a physical connection with somebody, it doesn't mean anything. But when she's actually there, and for Zeus to murder Ares because yeah, he's the god of war and he's showing compassion. He feels remorse for the things that he's done. Yeah, you could 100% see that. So um, I thought that worked pretty well also. But all that being said, yeah, not my favorite. But I'm curious. I wonder what it would have looked like with different art. I don't know if it would have made my top five in that case. But anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have New Gods number 6, written by Rom V. Felipe Andrade handles the vast majority of the art in the issue and the colors. Evan Cagle has a few pages here and there. And there is no doubt, for me, this is my least favorite issue of the series so far. Um, this comes in at number 11 for me. And I just, I don't want to say, like, you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. I just really, really, really dislike this art. Like, it is, I cannot, I don't want to say anything more than that because then it just sounds like, you know, I'm ranting against the artist and think he has no talent or whatever. And that's not the case. This is just not the style of art that I enjoy whatsoever. So it pulled me out of the story at every turn. It didn't really tell the story. I didn't think the transitions were particularly good. It just felt like a bit of a mess to me. And so it was a real struggle to read this, and to get anything from it. So yeah, this it comes in last for me. Where do you have it?
Uh yeah, I have this at I have this at number 6 for me. Just it's just out of my top 5. I agree with you with the art. I didn't like the art, but I thought that I'm in fairness to the story, I thought that uh I really got into the story and the fact what Ramvi's trying to say about the death of a god here. He's sort of elevating the importance of the death that happened last issue, and that was with what is it, Sun? Well, the what's his name again?
Light Ray,
Light Ray. Sorry, I was going to say
Solus.
sunlight. Solus,
Yeah,
yeah. And just the significance of his death, because he probably didn't have to die, but a sacrifice was necessary. I'm not I and the whole significance of the black racer, and the black racer is always somebody that shows up upon death, and the black racer, the whole there's it gets really, it gets esoteric. So the standard criticisms of Ramvi, from which he can get a little bit too esoteric at times, he gets a little bit esoteric here, but the significance of the black racer, about always showing up, he's a harbinger of death, but he's also death itself. uh, that was really that was really rammed home in Final Crisis. The role that Black Racer played in Final Crisis, and he's somebody who's always been a little bit of an element of mystery to him. When we think of Black Racer, we often tend to think of the Black Racer in terms of just Flash comics, where he shows up and he's always going to show up to kill a Flash. Well, he's far more significant. This is the Black Racer of the New Gods. It's more significant than that. And because we literally have an approaching end to this universe, uh, with the Nefredi, or what the hell, I'm going to say that wrong again. In any event, with the stakes are higher than ever, and something, and even death itself seems to be disrupted. Something, the Black Racer himself senses that something is off, and when you factor that in, and when you get to the end, where the art changes with Orion and the new gods, with Orion being stopped by Superman from attacking the chosen one, the child, just as the new gods spaceship is entering out of whatever null space they're in, to crash land on Earth. The Justice League has to prevent them from hitting the Earth. We know that the stakes are really being raised here for some ultimate battle here. And your comments about the art are well taken, because this is clearly leading to an epic battle, where we're going to have this powerful child. There's still so much we don't know about it. We have the new gods. We've got the Black Racer. We got Solus, who might end up, showing up again, even though he's technically dead. And we have these ultra powerful, dark side like forces that are arriving on Earth. That requires a certain type of epic art, and the type of art that we see in this issue, I hope we don't. I mean, I don't think it's capable of rendering justice to that type of story idea, in my opinion. And so I share your concerns about the art. I'm interested enough in the story that it caught, notwithstanding that, I still appreciated the story it was trying to tell. So,
yeah. I mean, I don't disagree, but this is definitely a Black Racer spotlight issue, and I'm a fan of the Black Racer, and I just wish I'd gotten cool art to get the more
yeah,
into the Black Racer, because this art
yeah,
just doesn't do it for me.
yeah,
That being said, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the massive battle between what new gods there are on Earth, and this new god, as well as the Justice League fighting against the Niktari. That's going to be really cool to see, and I'm excited for that. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Evan Cagle. I think his art is fantastic, and I love that he's done the majority of the art for most of these issues. And there have been guest artists in almost every issue, to probably give Evan Cagle a chance to get a little bit ahead. and typically they're in the flashbacks where we get somebody else doing the art. And this one, it's a lot of flashback or flash sideways or however you want to put it with what's going on with Solus and the Black Racer and what have you. And so Philippe Andrade gets to do a lot of that. And I imagine the next issue, if that is the issue where we get the beginnings of the battle between the Niktari and the Heroes of Earth and the new gods that are on Earth, then that's going to be epic and a lot of characters, and probably Evan needed an issue like this where he only did like 3 or 4 pages to get ahead on the next issue. So I get it, but I guess I just wish they'd showed somebody other than Philippe Andrade, because I just didn't care for the art at all. So anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Zatanna, issue number 4. The curtain falls. Jamal Campbell handles the writing and the art, as well as the colors. Ariana Mayer on letters. This falls just out of my top 5. It comes in at number 6 for me. I did still enjoy it. Might have snuck in at the top 5 if we got a little bit more Blue Devil, who's a character that I can't really get enough of and doesn't show up enough these days. But it just felt like, for me, this is the first issue where it felt like the story started to drag a little bit. Been pretty impressed with the pacing from Jamal Campbell, who's known for his art, not necessarily his writing. But this issue, it felt like it started to drag a little bit. So anyway, where does this land for you?
This actually just landed at number 6 for me, just outside my top 5. And but I agree, it just started to drag just a bit, but it's still there's I still find this Satana sexy. I love the art. I love the pacing, the story. I'm still interested in the story. The colors, just I love. I just absolutely love what Jamal Campbell has done here. And here we get to hear more of the machinations of Lady White, but we also meet more of this Brother Knight, who seems to be in control of. Brother Knight seems to be maybe the lead villain here, and Lady White perhaps might even be a pawn of his as well. They seem to be working together. Zatanna really shows her agency here. By the end of this issue, she actually rips the sword out of her chest somehow. I'm not really sure how, but she's suggesting that next issue is going to be some serious more kick-ass moments. We get more of an origin here, a reminder of the origin of Blue Devil, with the origins of with the demon defeating his enemy and ripping off his skin, which became the skin that was on the Rudy, who became Blue Devil, and Zatanna trying to save his life, and even her utilization of reading the books of magic, and she reads an invitation to take her to go to the Crimson Palace, the Night of Desires. There's a majesty to this series that's so well done, because it's the world of magic, but Jamal Campbell does such a good job of the world of magic. It's it doesn't it almost feels like a late 19th century palace. There's a majesty to it, and the way that he portrays the magic and the magical realms, it really feels like we're in a different world, even though we know we're in our own. And it works really well. And so, even though it never made my top 5, it was just on the edge.
Yeah, even though you still have plenty to say.
Yeah,
All right,
sorry.
up next we had Titans number 23, written by John Layman. Pete Woods handles the art and colors. Wes Abbott on letters. This comes in at number 4 for me. I'm really enjoying the John Layman era of Titans. That being said, this is a little bit of a setup issue. We get a lot of Vanadia and learn that although the Titans are giving her another chance, she was she grew up and idolized the Titans and wanted to be a member, and then that love of the Titans and that desire was manipulated, and she was recreated and built to destroy the Titans. And Cyborg has given her another chance, but we find out that she is extremely powerful, able to control electronics at a deep level, even to the point of um, being able to disrupt Cyborg's functions. And she's also been basically able to create multiples of herself. Like, she is extremely, extremely powerful, um, without a lot of control and without a lot of ability to control her powers, without a lot of self awareness at this point. So the Justice League members do express some concern over the fact that this former villain and enemy of the Titans is now has access to the Watchtower, has access to Titan's Tower, has access to a lot of things when she hasn't really been vetted yet. So they're valid concerns, and Donna, on the face of it, Donna Troy, the current leader of the Titans, backs up what Cyborg did and defends him, but even though in the back of her mind she has a lot of those same concerns. Um, and so, interesting bit of setup because we're learning about what a threat Venadia can possibly be. We've also set up some friction between the Titans and the rest of the Justice League members. So there's that foreshadowing, and then there's the foreshadowing of this team up of the Clock King and Deathstroke and the machinations that Slade Wilson is going through to finally defeat the Titans once and for all. He knows that the Titans are on their way to his latest hideout to attack them. They don't seem too concerned about it, so they must be prepared in some way. And perhaps it has to do with the secret weapon that they're about to deploy, which is Terra. The infamous Terra from the Judas contract. I couldn't have honestly told you before I saw her show up here what her current status was, if she was alive, if she was dead.
Yeah,
She died at the end of the Judas contract, but she's been
yeah.
brought back. But then other times she's been dead. Like I don't know. She's not a major enough character that it seems like they have a like official status for her. It's just like if a writer needs her to be alive, she's alive. If the writer needs her to be dead, she's dead. So it's kind of funny. Um, but it should lead to some pretty strong emotional beats in the next issue. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I'm still just hugely enjoying the John Layman Titans era. I think the art by Pete Woods is fantastic. I mean, this is what I want out of a Titans book. It's there's character work and kind of interactions between characters that have drama, just like the classic Wolfman Perez era. And you have plenty of classic superhero moments. You have bright colors. You have great art. So yeah, really, really working for me. Um, might even been worthy of top three now that I look at my top three. Um, don't know if I would have swapped it with my number three, but anyway, really, really enjoying it. How about you? Where does this rank for you?
You know what? This was right at. This could have been my top five, but I had a bitch of a time with my top seven. To be honest with you, well, or at least from 4 to 7. But I actually put this in at. This was number 7 for me. It could have, but for the grace of certain few artists and other nitpicks. I thought this was good. I've been enjoying this, and every comment you make, I agree with. It reminds me of the Perez era, but it feels fresh and new. I really like Vanadia. She feels like a new character. I'm curious why Cyborg screwed up with her so badly. He basically repaired her and enhanced her. How does he not know that she has all these powers? And then stupidly he wants to keep it secret and don't tell the Justice League that we may have screwed up and created another supervillain. Don't you guys learn anything? But you think the Justice League is rightly concerned because the Titans have Raven, and how many times have they screwed up Raven? And they're going to trust the Titans with Fanadia? Or anyways, it's kind of funny. I love the character work, great stuff. I still like the I like the Roy Harper and Donna Troy. I like that relationship. And with Tara showing up, I kind of thought she was dead. I don't know how she's back, but I'm glad she's back. She's probably not 14 years old anymore and sleeping with Deathstroke. Probably, I imagine she's older than 14 now. So if her and Deathstroke can probably get it on and won't ruffle any feathers. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good stuff.
Our rankings this week are really weird. You said you struggled with 1 through 7. Like my one through my 1 through 6 were really easy. Like I
Yeah.
knew what my 1 through 6 were because when I look at my 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, let me just double check that. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Every one of those books, I don't like the art. So it made it real easy to say, okay, this is my bottom, and none of the stories in those books were strong enough to overcome the art. Um,
Yeah.
But
I
that
have,
being said,
yeah.
1 through 6, I like the art, and some some I like the story as well. Um, but when I talk about 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, didn't like the art in any of them. That's not to say I don't like the artist, um, because in some of them I just don't think it's the right artist for that book, and that's the case with with the next book, which is Nightwing number 126, that comes in at number 10 for me. Written by Dan Waters, the art is by Francesco Francavilla, Wes Abbott on letters. And I think Francavilla is a fantastically talented artist, but this is just the wrong book for him. Um, it kind of worked a little bit for me last issue, worked better than it worked in this issue, because last issue had a little bit more of a spooky vibe, and that kind of went away this issue, that spooky vibe, and I just didn't think the art was appropriate. So I'm still enjoying what Dan Waters is doing on the book, but yeah, this art just didn't work for me here for this story. But if I'm not mistaken, and I'm keeping track, that this must be in your top 5, right?
It's in my top 3.
There you
Uh,
go.
yeah, unlike you, I like Francavilla's art. I've been a fan of his since
I
back
like his art. I like his
yeah,
art. His art just doesn't work for this story.
yeah. No, fair enough. I stand corrected. I've been a fan of his since back his when he was drawing the covers for Lone Ranger and doing the cover and the some of the interiors for the Lone Ranger series back by Dynamite. And I think the reason why I love this issue of Nightwing is that I thought it continues the story where we're dealing with basically a group of cops that are utilizing the character of Captain Hallow, which is basically sort of like the first cop in Bloodhaven, and there's some mystique and mythology around and history around this character. And they basically a group of cops gets together. It's discovered that, and they are pretending to be Captain Hallow to try to get revenge on to get even with another officer, and but that's really not the heart of the story. The heart of the story is with Maggie Sawyer, former commissioner of, I guess, leader of the ran the police department in Metropolis, is now in Gotham City, and her girlfriend Katie, and the relationship that Katie has with her daughter, and uh, and just the how uh, the frustration that Maggie has, and her journey from becoming from a cop in Metropolis, rising in the ranks there, coming to Bloodhaven, and her relationship with Superman was very different than her relationship with what she considers to be vigilantes in Gotham. And this is a pivotal issue for Maggie Sawyer, because she comes around to realizing that maybe there's a place for vigilantes after all. And there's a place at the end here, and where Nightwing shows up, because Maggie Sawyer ends up herself essentially uh, defeating both her defeating the cop who is dressed up as Captain Hallow, and unfortunately the child ends up was trying to escape and ends up falling, and Nightwing shows up and catches her and says, "Don't worry, I got you." And it's just reminiscent of Superman really saying the same thing, flying into the air saying, "I got you." and and Maggie sees this, and I think at that moment she realizes that it still bothers her that she's got to work with vigilantes. It still bothers her that this corruption still exists. All her entire career she's fought it. She was hoping she'd be able to do a better job in Bloodhaven, and it frustrates her to no end. And but Nightwing shares her frustration, but you can kind of see that she's torn a little bit, and that she's going to have to forge new alliances and maybe compromise, or at least not compromise her principles, but reinterpret and reframe her principles, because she realizes that she's got no friends. She really doesn't have that many allies in Bloodhaven, and yet the one ally she has is literally standing right beside her, and it's somebody that she doesn't want to like, But Nightwing, let's face it, this is Dick Grayson we're talking about. Even when he's as Nightwing, he's a very hard character not to like because he's just that damn good and he cares. And Maggie Sawyer can see that. And I love this issue because it embodies the essence. It embodies Nightwing in a great way, in such a way that just by watching Nightwing, Maggie Sawyer you can see she's still a complex character. She's in a with a lot of her own emotions and idiosyncrasies, but she kind of comes around, and I like that. And that's really the heart of the story for me, in a way that really sort of put this in my top three. So and I think the art, Frankie Villa's art, I thought his facial expressions, that he did a really good job of sort of ex- all the expressions, especially on Maggie Sawyer, who's the central character in this story. Even though it's a Nightwing comic, it feels like it's Maggie Sawyer's character arc here over these last two issues, and it really works well. At least it resonated well with me, so I quite enjoyed it for that reason.
Yeah, way to give Maggie Sawyer a girlfriend named Katie with pink hair as opposed to Kate with red hair. I mean, that really that
Yeah,
won't confuse anybody.
yeah,
I'm like, wait,
yeah.
when did I thought, because I thought it was Kate Kane at first. I'm like, when did Kate Kane get a kid?
I
Like,
know.
what's going
Yeah.
on? Like, who is this? I thought that was a poor choice as well. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just, again, I didn't feel that was strong enough to overcome art. I feel that's, misapplied to that story. So anyway, all right. In terms of collections well, first let me say that I mentioned there's a few other books out this week. We've got Facsimile Editions of Batman 617 as DC continues to reprint the first Hush story. Also, Our Army at War 151 also has a facsimile edition. That's classic Enemy Ace story. It also has Sergeant Rock and Easy Company story. Absolute Manhunter #1 gets a reprint. Absolute Flash #1 also gets a reprint. Absolute Green Lantern #1 gets a second printing as well. So if you missed any of those debut #1s from the second wave of Absolute issues or series, you can hopefully pick them up this week. And then I mentioned it before, DC Sonic the Hedgehog #3 also out this week. In terms of collections, we've got DC's Finest Batman, The Killing Joke, and other stories. Obviously, reprints The Killing Joke, some Batman stories, some Detective Comic stories, Son of the Demon. Obviously, a lot of stuff focused on the Joker there. Wonder Woman Volume 3, Fury trade paperback. This is a Tom King run, collecting issues 14 through 19. We've got Green Lantern Volume 3, Power of Will, reprinting some issues from the Jeremy Adams run. This is really strange, though. It reprints issues 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then 13, 14, 15. So it skips 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I don't know why. And then it also has the Absolute Power Task Force 7, #3, that Jeremy Adams wrote, where we see Jadestone for the first time. And then it also has some of the material from the 0 Hour 30th Anniversary special. So it's pretty big, 236 pages for $20 if you're so inclined. Nightwing is getting a compendium, book 2, A Night in Bloodhaven. It collects Nightwing 26 through 59, as well as other assorted titles that cross over with Nightwing during that era. Finally, for a lot of people, for the writer himself, has been wanting to have this material reprinted for a long time. It's the Doctor Fate series from J.M. DeMatteis that has a lot of art. Most of the art is done by Sean McManus. So it's that 1987 miniseries of Doctor Fate, which which was 4 issues, and that spun into an ongoing series, Doctor Fate Volume 2. It lasted 24 issues, and it had 1 annual. So this is collecting all of that material. You've got 776 pages for $60 if you are so inclined, and I do enjoy that series, um, especially the Keith Giffen covers. They're really fantastic. Suicide Squad, the second version of Suicide Squad, the one that made its first appearance in the Legends miniseries in 1986. That's the John Ostrander version. It's getting an omnibus. It's a hardcover. It's 1,024 pages. It's $125, and it collects the first 18 issues of Suicide Squad, as well as a ton of crossovers, um, and that entire Legends miniseries, of which the Suicide Squad played a very important role. But when after they debuted, they were immensely popular right from the beginning, and they started showing up everywhere. And so basically, for the first year and a half of the Suicide Squad, you're going to get every appearance. You know, Firestorm, Secret Origins, Justice League International, Manhunter, like all of those, everything that where they showed up, you're going to have it there. So, Superman: The Death and Return of Superman Compendium. This stuff's been reprinted a ton of times, but new printing coming just in time for the movie, just in time for anybody who wants to read some Superman comics because they love the movie. Maybe they pick up Superman Limited and love it. You can go back and read one of the most beloved eras, his death at the hands of Doomsday, the various uh, replacements, if you will, for Superman that showed up, and then his the return of the true Superman. Um, Still remember picking up that foil cover in 1993. And then finally, Legion of Superheroes: The Curse, the deluxe edition hardcover. This is 544 pages for $50, and it collects the Legion of Superheroes 297 through 313, as well as annuals 2 and 3. This is fantastic stuff. This is probably my favorite era. It's right after the New Darkness saga. So there's
Yeah.
or the Great Darkness saga, and so they're still dealing with the fallout and ramifications of that. Some new members show up. White Witch and the second Invisible Kid show up here um, for the first time in this era. Um, Fantastic art from so many great artists. Dave Gibbons, Kurt Swan, George Tuska, Gene Colan, like so many fantastic um, artists. And this is when this is the era where I first started picking up Legion off the stands, reading it on a monthly basis. Was right in this era, so I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for it. So it's really, really good stuff, though. So anyway, time for book of the week, our re-rankings, or our to give our rankings, if you will.
You want to
I
go
guess
first?
yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So I mentioned before that issues 7 through 11 are where they are mostly due to the art. So 11 is New Gods number 6. Coming at number 10, I have Nightwing 126. Number 9 is Catwoman 76. Number 8, Batman and Robin Year 1, number 7. At number 7, I have Wonder Woman 21. And then the rest of them are based on art and story. I like the art in the rest of them. So Zatanna just barely missed out of my top 5, comes in at number 6 for me. Then I have Batman, Superman, World's Finest at number 5. Number 4 is Titans, number 23. Although, I mean, that one and my number 3 probably interchangeable. I could have easily gone Titans number 3, but the number 3 I have on my list is Detective Comics number 1097, um, which leaves Absolute Flash number 3 and Superman Unlimited number 1 as my possible books of the week. And I flip flop back and forth on this. When I first read them, I was like, oh, Superman Unlimited. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, Absolute Flash number 3. I'm put Absolute Flash number 3, number 1. And then during this episode, as we were talking about the books, I switched it back. So I have Absolute Flash at number 2 and Superman Unlimited at number 1. Just because I think Superman Unlimited is so new reader friendly and can help bring in new readers. Um, and I thought the art was fantastic. And I have no idea what's going to happen with Kryptonite. I have no idea what these new powers are for Superman. And I love the idea of the Daily Planet trying to fight misinformation. So there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like with Absolute Flash as well, but a lot of what's drawing me to Absolute Flash is the mystery of what might happen. And so if it turns out I don't like those answers, maybe it kind of diminishes it for me a little bit. But um, yeah, I
Yeah.
went with Superman Unlimited #1. So anyway, what are
Uh,
your rankings?
well, my rankings from number 10 down is 10 was Batman and Robin, 7, 9 was World's Finest, 8 was Absolute Flash, uh, 7 was Titans 23, 6 was Zatanna, 5 was New Gods, 4 was Wonder Woman 21, and then these top three, these three were so difficult. But my rankings are Detective Comics at number 3, and um, I did. I have Nightwing at. I had Nightwing at number 1, but Superman probably should go number 1. But because you went with Superman, it's so close. Nightwing I thought was really awesome. I thought it just it impressed me. So I'm gonna go with Nightwing 126.
Well,
I liked it that
that's
much.
2 weeks in a row where I mean, not quite, uh, not quite the disparity of last week, but close. Um, where my #1 is yeah, like your #1 is all the way at 10 for me. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
How can I
that's
say? Must be the mood I'm
baffling. And
in, I
wasn't
guess.
wasn't was your #1 last week? Was it? It was Batman Dark Patterns, which was
Yeah,
from
that's right.
which
And
was
then before
yeah,
then I
and
had
that was second. That was second to last for me last week. So your #1 2 weeks in a row has been my second to last in the rankings. That is fascinating to me. Because man, we
yeah.
were on a streak for so long where like our #1s were like lining up.
Well,
So
our
that's
top threes are pretty close. I mean, so but
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I
We
mean.
but we yeah we have we both have Detective Comics. We both have Superman Unlimited. We both have Detective Comics at #3. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's so interesting. Like it just goes to show it's definitely subjective. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, before we close out, um, I'm going to put Rocky on the spot. We're going to talk a little bit about the it used to be Marvel referred to DC as the distinguished competition, right? Because it was the same letters, DC, distinguished
Yeah.
competition. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna ask Rocky a Spider-Man question. So I saw this question and this was posted on Twitter, and I found it to be fascinating. And it was like a lot of times, and I've done episodes before, right? Like where we go, hey, here's your top 5 Batman artists of all time. Here's your top 5 Flash artists, Green Lantern artists, what have you. Um,
Mhm.
but this one was a little different. They listed 4 Spider-Man artists, and they said, and basically the question was, you choose one of the 4, and that person's art replaces all other Spider-Man art, right? So you're saying like if you pick this person, then every issue of Spider-Man that's ever been drawn is drawn by that person, right? And the choices were um, Steve Ditko, Todd MacFarlane,
Yeah.
John Romita Sr., or John Romita Jr. So
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
an
you
easy.
have a giant run of Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
So even
Yeah.
though we I don't think we've ever really done a Marvel spotlight, an episode focused only on Marvel. Um,
Yeah.
we've done independent. We have obviously done DC, and we've talked about other Marvel books in the past. Um, but you say an easy choice for you.
It
So
is.
who is it,
It
and
is.
give us your reasoning.
Well, John Romita Sr. When I think of Spider-Man, when I visualize Spider-Man, I think of his art. I always have. I always have. McFarlane's art's great too, and that's probably the go-to for probably many. But John Romita Sr. is there's an elegance and a flow to his art that is absolutely timeless and is just uh it just embodies that era for me of Spider-Man, and it embodies when I visualize Peter Parker, I think of him. He just um that captures the essence. It's sort of like to this day when I think of Superman, I think of Kurt Swan because I grew up with that. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a little bit of that nostalgia feel I have to it as well. It's sort of like it's that first indelible mark that a character makes on you. You associate with the art. But no, John Romita Sr. There's an elegance about his art, a simplicity to it that and it was just it's so good, and he's such a superior artist to his son. I Junior would be the last one I would pick. I wouldn't want John Romita Jr. on anything. Uh, unless I can't believe anybody would choose the son over the father. But no, Senior all the way to the bank for me. But I'm
Yeah, so it's
curious.
pretty. It was pretty interesting. I didn't read every response because there was like 1,300 comments, but
Yeah,
I probably read a good 500 responses. Coming in last was Junior, JR
yeah,
Junior, and I
sure.
agree with you that. Now,
Yeah,
when he first showed up, I liked his art a lot more, but he wasn't necessarily on the finishes. Once he started kind of doing everything in his own style, it's an acquired taste, and it's not a taste I've ever acquired. I don't. It's too blocky.
yeah,
I mean, he's a good storyteller, but in terms of just his rendering, I don't care for it. When it comes to MacFarlane, I mean, I was excited as anybody when he showed up and buying his books and his covers sold, and he's got a very interesting style, and his reasoning behind the why he made the choices he made is really fascinating to me.
yeah,
But I will say that MacFarlane's art is a little bit of its time. It's a little 90s. It sort of dates itself, and um, he still does covers and he's still super talented or whatever. But um, for me, I want something that's gonna, if it's replacing every single art issue on art for every issue of Spider-Man ever made. I want something
yeah,
that is never going to look like it ages, and it's always going to look classic, and it's always going to look good. And for me, nobody comes close to Romita Sr. I'm like you, like that. When I think of what Spider-Man is supposed to look like, what Peter Parker is supposed to look like, but it goes beyond that. What Mary Jane is supposed to look like, what Craven looks like, what Rhino looks like, what
yeah,
Scorpion looks like. I mean, he established the look. He was the art director for a long time. He did a lot of character designs beyond just being the monthly in and out monthly artist for Spider-Man. I mean, he established the aesthetic at Marvel Comics for decades, and
absolutely.
he was just unparalleled in my mind. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was a super easy choice for me. That Ditko, I've never been a big fan of Ditko. Like, I get that he, and the same argument with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, right? This is the same thing with Stan Lee and Steve
yeah,
Ditko, who had more creative input on Spider-Man or whatever. We're never really going to know. Um, and but beyond him leaving the title because he felt like he wasn't getting the credit that he was due, his art was really gangly, and I didn't care for it on Spider-Man. I like his art on a lot of other things more, like his art that he did like on Shade the Changing Man, for example. He did some issues of Rom where I think his art is a lot stronger. Some of his weakest art I feel like was on Spider-Man, so it's kind of interesting.
yeah,
But anyway, little Marvel talk for you there, everybody. Again, I saw it and I was just curious what Rocky's opinion was. Kind of no surprise. Again, we're kind of the same age. We both have really long runs of Amazing Spider-Man, and when you start reading that stuff back, maybe we're dating ourselves. Start reading that stuff back even in the '70s. Then yeah, you're gonna go with Romita. Some people had there were a couple of write-ins that I thought were worthy of being a choice uh, over JR and maybe even over Ditko. And the two write-ins that I saw the most, the number one write-in that I saw the most was Mark Bagley. A lot of people picked Bagley,
right.
which I could see
Ultimate
that he's
Spider-Man around
fantastic.
there.
Yeah, and also Ross Andrew was another one
Right.
that was written,
Yeah,
and he was the one. He was the artist that followed Romita Sr. And so he was on it for a long time as well. So
yeah.
anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in as always. If you're listening audio only, we really appreciate it. Remember, the Comic Source podcast is available on any podcasting app or platform. Just do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe, and you got thousands of back episodes to go and listen to. If you're checking us out on YouTube and you prefer to listen audio only, again, just maybe you're working out or you're on the subway, whatever, just go and search and subscribe. And if you are listening to us audio only and you wonder, hey, how can I see the art? How can I see the covers? How can I see your smiling faces? Every week when we do this, we'll just head over to YouTube, go to Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom, ! Comment, like, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content is coming out. And we always love to get conversations going in the comment section as well. And as an added bonus, even though it's DC Spotlight, our weekly DC Spotlight, let us know down in the comments which of those 4 artists you would pick for Spider-Man. And again, that caveat, that's what makes it so tough. It's replacing, right? So, like, first appearance of Venom is no longer MacFarlane; it's Romita Sr. I don't. I'm glad that it's not a thing, right? I wouldn't want one artist. You want a variety of artists to do, because again, it goes to what I was saying about Frank Avilla's art. I love Frank Avilla, but I don't know that he was the best artist for that particular issue of Nightwing. So having different artists in different eras just makes it fun. You don't get tired of the same old thing. So anyway, don't forget to head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel for the rest of the Comic Source content that's coming out. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Once you're over there, ring that notification bell. A lot of coverage from San Diego Comic-Con coming up pretty soon, in just a few months. Maybe Rocky will even be there. We'll see. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Appreciate you joining as always, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.